I'm here in front of the 2018 Cervelo R5. Now this is their disc model titled the R5D. The model that I had the opportunity to ride was actually their rim brake version. Now I've ridden disc brake before, so let me tell you quickly what's going to happen when you're riding rim versus disc brake versions. Disc brakes have much better overall braking performance, notably more braking power in the wet and greater modulation, which is the amount of force or control you have within the lever itself. However, disc brakes have been said to be less aerodynamic, how much is up for debate. And secondly, while disc brakes themselves don't weigh more than rim brakes, the actual requirements to have disc brake on your bike, i.e. different structures on your wheel, fork and frame, will generally make disc brake versions slightly more heavier than rim brake versions, around about 300 grams. While these two models come with different setups, the rim brake version that I rode had SRAM ETAP for its components and ZIP 302 wheels, and this disc version has Dura-Ace Di2 and MV 3.4 wheels. For the purpose of this review, I'd like to focus more on the frame, because let's face it, how do we differentiate one race bike to the next? It's not wheels and it's not components, it's this thing here. So what actually makes Cervelo unique? Well, I'll get to that for you shortly, because I recently also had the opportunity to road test the all-new 2018 Specialized Tarmac, and I thought it would be interesting to compare one race bike, the Cervelo R5, to the next, the Specialized 2018 Tarmac. And if you're someone that gets a little bit frustrated with fence sitting, don't worry, I'll tell you exactly what my personal preferred bike is. But telling you that right now would not be fair to you, Cervelo or Specialized, because I need to give you some context first. Each bike has unique characteristics that align to different types of riding styles. So how does the Cervelo R5 compare to the Specialized Tarmac? Interestingly, when you compare the geometries of these two race machines, there's very little between them. Few millimeters here, few millimeters there, if anything. I've actually made a comparison, geometry rise 56 centimeter to 56 centimeter in my full written review linked to below this video. So what do the brands actually say? Specialized say nothing is lighter, faster, and better handling. Cervelo say we've redefined a classic road bike, revolutionizing three interconnected factors: comfort, fit, and handling/stability. I'd have to say these statements appear to be true. Where these brands have spoken out, they have created defining characteristics. Drilling a little bit deeper though, both brands have definitely focused on fit. Cervelo have created what they call a new Pro Fit, which includes an enormous 8mm stack reduction, which enables the rider to get lower compared to its previous version. However, on a 54 centimeter frame, which was the Cervelo R5 that I rode, that has a published stack of 548 millimeters, which say falls between the Specialized Tarmac, which has a published stack of 543 millimeters, and a Cannondale Super 6 Evo, which has a published stack of 551 millimeters on the same 54 centimeter frame set. So still not overly aggressive, but this move from Cervelo aligns to feedback they've received from Team Dimension data. One of the other key criteria when it comes to fit for Cervelo was handling and stability. In order to do so, the bottom bracket height has been dropped by 4 millimeters, that's on a size 56, to 72 millimeters, which is exactly the same as the Tarmac. And the wheelbase increase by 8 millimeters, which is the length it has over the Specialized Tarmac in terms of wheelbase. These two features work to lower a rider's center of gravity and provide more stability while on the bike. From a riding perspective, the longer wheelbase gives the Cervelo a more grounded feel when you're zooming down a descent or taking a corner at speed, yet a little less responsive when out of the saddle, say compared to the Tarmac. Now when Specialized talk about fit, they're talking about a completely re-engineered frame, or what they call platform, which is not so much based off feedback they've obtained from pros. Yes, they've done that, but they've also taken into account a bike fitting program that they implemented in 2012 called Retool. And as a result of this bike fitting program, they've now been able to capture over 40,000 fits digitally of athletes who have taken this fit, and they've used this analytical information to essentially redesign their whole frame. Specialized call this a rider-first approach, and at a performance level, the race performance frame for Specialized is now shared across both men and women. Specialized say that the rider-first approach is to ensure that the tarmac is stiff and compliant in exactly the right places. And Cervelo say that the R series is now officially categorized as their stiffest ever road frames. So let's drill into this stiffness and compliant talk from both Cervelo and Specialized. Cervelo have focused a lot on the bottom bracket, which has been lowered to stabilize handling to make it 13% stiffer than the previous model and 20% more stiffness added to the head tube. The bottom bracket is an asymmetrical design called BB Right, and takes advantage of the fact that oversized frame tubes are stiffer and lighter. On the right side of the bike, the frame tubes are already as wide as possible, any wider and they'd hit the chain rings. But on the left side, there are no chain rings, so the BB Right makes use of the extra space by extending the bottom bracket shell by 11 millimeters, nearly doubling the width of the left chainstay. The frame more generally is considered to be squabble engineered, blending square and oval shaped design throughout the entire frame. Specialized, on the other hand, discuss three major components when it comes to stiffness and compliance. And they also make additional claims that the tarmac is more aerodynamic than the very first Vengers that rolled off their production line, which is like saying the Cervelo R5 is more aerodynamic than the S series of say 5 years ago. Specialized outline a stronger carbon fiber layup, separate fork dimensions depending on the size of the frame, and also more aerodynamic tubing throughout the bike, including dropping the seat stays. Both bikes offer an aero D-shaped seat post, reducing both bikes' aerodynamic drag. Although I'd have to say the tarmac D-shaped seat post appears to be a lot more narrower and aerodynamic than say the Cervelo. Lastly, everyone gets excited about weight. Specialized promote heavily the lightness of the tarmac being 20% lighter in the frame than the previous model. Cervelo make no real mention of weight, and by all accounts, the new Cervelo R5 is a similar weight to its predecessor. And certainly, riding both bikes and picking them up, the Specialized does feel a lot lighter. So how did I find them both to ride? One bike felt faster with, say, more race aggression. The other bike felt a little bit more controlled from a handling perspective, and it felt like I could just ride it all day long. You're probably guessing which bikes I'm talking about, right? Now, I'm not saying the Cervelo wasn't fast, nor am I saying the Specialized was uncomfortable. In fact, the Specialized SL6 tarmac, which is their upgraded version, I felt was more comfortable than their previous SL5, and I could ride that bike for 100 kilometers on end. But is it more comfortable than the Cervelo R5? Personally, I'd have to say no. To give you another example here from a comfort perspective, if you look at the pros, and if you look at a race like the Paris-Roubaix, the pros that ride the Specialized are probably less likely to use the tarmac and more likely to use the Roubaix, whereas Team Dimension data will definitely be selecting something from the R series fleet. I did find the Cervelo fast. It's a race performance bike. It's got aerodynamic attributes, including a Cervelo engineered all carbon aero stem and bar, and the Zip 302 wheels added into the mix. Descending and cornering was also a pleasure on the Cervelo, but did it feel as fast as the Specialized tarmac? In my opinion, no, it didn't. The tarmac has been built with aero in mind and is lighter than ever before. The Rovel 50s added onto the version that I rode created a super aero feeling, and the downhill descending was so rapid I found myself feathering on the brakes like never before. The cornering was aggressive on the tarmac, which perhaps could be a little bit too much for some. But if you want to know what my personal preference would be to suit my riding style, I'd have to say the tarmac. I race in the local A-grade criteriums here in Melbourne, and I need all the help I can get to ensure I'm not watching the last few laps from the grass. The aerodynamic credentials on the tarmac make it a super aggressive race bike that just suits the type of riding that I personally want to do. Some of you may not race criteriums nor favour aerodynamics and weight gains. The Cervelo definitely rides fast with incredible comfort, and I'd have to say more eloquent handling than the tarmac. So whatever your riding style, these two bikes offer exceptional race performance, and did I not mention beautiful eye-catching appeal. Oh. squatting in the worst place. Can you just give us 1 minute? I'm almost finished. Cervelo say we've redefined a classic road bike. Cervelo say we've revolutionised a classic road bike. We've redefined. Specialized say we've